My name is Hemant Shah.
Donc, bonjour, je m'appelle Hugo Bissonnet.
My name is Jennifer Broad.
I'm Naveed Janjua.
My name is Jodie Albert. I didn't have much education on it at all. I didn't know much about it. So to me, it felt like a death sentence. My life was over.
There are about 250 to 400,000 people living with hepatitis C in Canada. And the way I characterize hepatitis C in Canada is kind of like two set of parallel epidemics, and we call this as twin epidemics, where new infections are occurring among people who use substances, while there are people who are living with prevalent infection. And these are people who acquired this infection in the past, and now they are presenting with end-stage liver disease like liver cancer, cirrhosis, and non-liver related complications of hepatitis C.
When it was first discovered, there were no effective treatments. However, eventually some people discovered that you could use treatments that boosted a person's own immune system to act against the virus as treatment. Those initial treatments were called interferon. Interferon is the chemical in our body that makes us feel like we have the flu when we have the flu. So these initial treatments were very limited by the incredible amount of side effects that interferon would cause, including feeling like you had the flu, fevers, feeling tired, being nauseous, having difficulty sleeping, developing headaches.
Once I was told about the treatment and the success rate and the side effects, and then just living with it for so many years, I guess I was hesitant.
What the pills allowed us to do was really start to see more than incremental, small improvements in the effectiveness and ultimately the safety of hepatitis C treatment. So that first pill that came out took the cure rates from 50% all the way up to about 75% in one big leap. And, you know, if you're watching this, 50 to 75 doesn't sound so great, but I can tell you in the medical world and in the science world, that is like getting to the moon almost.
I made the decision to start the treatment. Yeah. And then having that fear that what if that small percentage is me that doesn't get cured too was another fear of mine. But I went ahead and did it anyway. I did. Yeah, I did.
Now the treatments are easier, and you know we're kind of like coming to the end of the queue for people who are waiting for like the new treatments or people who actually did the hard, arduous interferon treatments. We've kind of exhausted that queue, so now we're you know, in order to seek and treat, it's becoming a little bit more difficult because we're having to do you know, we're trying to reach clients that have been even historically are even harder to treat than historically what we've already seen in our program.
Les moyens ont évolué dans l'apparition, le dépistage de l'infection, donc et les traitements. Donc nous, dès le début, là, on est déjà en mode depuis le début des années 2000 de micro-élimination en traitant tout le monde qui avait accès. Puis même si les traitements étaient plus complexes, les gens ont suivi le traitement, puis on a guéri beaucoup de gens. Là. Donc aujourd'hui, on trouve beaucoup moins d'hépatite C. Là. On cherche, puis on dépiste beaucoup, puis on en voit de moins en moins. Donc de traiter et de rejoindre les gens, puis leur offrir le traitement, mais ça fonctionne.
One of the main issue with hepatitis C is it's an asymptomatic disease, and if there is not a vibrant testing program, large number of people will remain undiagnosed.
So you need to go where people are accessing services that are relevant to them, and you need to partner with us.
Comprendre les personnes dans leur globalité. Donc souvent, c'est des gens qui sont démunis, qui ont peut-être qui vivent de l'itinérance chronique ou épisodique. Des fois, il y a la santé mentale autour de ça. C'est tous des gens qui n'ont peu ou pas de médecin de famille. Donc, tu sais, c'est des gens qui sont isolés, qui sont loin des fois du réseau de la santé, des gens qui n'ont pas de carte d'assurance maladie. Donc, tu sais, c'est assez courant, plus qu'on le pense. Donc, le réseau de santé publique est pas très hospitalier pour ces personnes-là. Et donc, il y a plusieurs choses à prendre en charge quand on veut traiter l'hépatite C parce que ben, si tu manges pas, on peut traiter ton hépatite C, mais c'est peut-être pas la priorité de la personne. Je veux savoir ce que je vais manger ou ce que je vais dormir.
And I was treated with such kindness and dignity, you know, it was just, it pushed me further to get the treatment, you know, being treated like a person, being treated with respect and now with just a person that was just diagnosed with not just diagnosed, but had a diagnosis of Hep C and addictions and
general public's like misconception of what a drug user is and isn't, and sort of the whole process by which we vilify drug users and we criminalize them and we marginalize them, and how all that has led to the overdose crisis, you know, as opposed to like treating each person as you know, as a unique individual worthy of compassion, worthy of love, worthy of decent housing, worthy of good health care, and respect, and worthy of respect and dignity. I mean, these are human beings that we're talking about. They're not throwaways.
Par contre aussi, on a quelques personnes issues de pays où l'hépatite C est endémique, qui sont soit en transit au Canada ou qui ont immigré ici. Donc, on a aussi une proportion de personnes migrantes qui ont l'hépatite C.
And that kind of like translates into a high burden of infection among immigrants. And why that is so, there are historically hepatitis C infection in these countries have been related with unsafe medical practices, like reuse of syringes for medical injections or surgical instruments or medical instruments. And that led to these epidemics of widespread transmission of hepatitis C in these countries. And many people didn't know about that. And they don't have traditional risk factors that we have here in Canada related to hepatitis C transmission. And that is one of the reasons related to why they are diagnosed late, because when they go to physicians, physician won't consider them at risk of infection because many physicians consider that the substance use is the major risk factor for hepatitis C infection. there are different type of immigrants who are coming to Canada. So there are those who have very good English language skills, but then we also have our parents and other population groups who may not have the same level of language skills. So that's why multilingual programs are very important from the point of view of providing care and services.
If I have a patient today diagnosed with hepatitis C, I give a very optimistic message. I tell that person that you've been diagnosed with an infection that is treatable and curable. And actually, probably the most important thing I do when I meet someone who's newly diagnosed with hepatitis C is I encourage them to talk about it with their loved ones and their peer circle. So destigmatizing some of that, what has been a historical stigma around hepatitis C is a really important message that I try to give people, because that's how we're going to spread the word, and that's how other people are going to come forward for testing and get diagnosed and also, be treated and cured of the virus.